Welcome to my tutorial of Photoshop, specifically on the iPad. I am not the biggest fan of Photoshop, however, it can be pretty useful on the iPad. You have your basic tools like your move tool. It doesn't move the canvas, you have to use two fingers instead and pinch inwards to go outwards and then outwards to go inwards because, yeah, we love having the opposites. We also have a transform tool. I don't know what it's looking at right now, but you have your scale, rotate, your skew, your distort, your perspective, and then just some regular transform settings. You can flip it, rotate it, undo, all that good jazz. There's a lasso tool, which has a few settings here. I don't like the generative fill or the content aware fill. It can be very just bad. This one's AI. Don't like it, personally. The deselect tool, the erase, you can refine the edges more, transform it. It's a pretty good lasso tool in my opinion. Of course, then you have your basic brushes. It comes with some regular brushes, but of course, if you know, you can always get Kyle's stuff. I don't believe it comes with Kyle's pens, but I could be wrong. And then you have your eraser. All you have to do is just double tap it to access both your brushes and your eraser. These are your clone tools, which has your spot healing brush, your remove tool, your healing brush, and your clone stamp. These tools are fine. It can make your iPad run a bit slower though, so I would be careful depending how big your smudge tool is, your sponge, your burn, and your dodge. Regular fill tool comes with gradient as well. Your cropping your canvas, text, you could add photos, files, and then the library, of course, and camera. Of course, you have your basic eyedropper tool, and you can rotate between two colors. You got your basic color wheel, and you can have some swatches, which I really like. It's nice. Then if you come over here, this top one lets you see your layers or not. This one allows you to go more into your layers, kind of like how Adobe Illustrator is. This has the layer properties, which with your opacity, your blend mode. You could add a clipped adjustment, convert to a smart object, some quick actions, effects, smart filters. This is if you want to collab with someone, you can add comments and share with other people, which I think is pretty neat. Lets you know your image size, and you can change that if you really wanted to from this menu. Of course, this just allows you to add a new layer. You can choose to not see a layer or see a layer. This is a mask tool, some clipping layers, and it shows you a whole bunch of different effects. I think this is pretty intuitive, but it can be kind of confusing for some aspects, like having to flip the canvas, where you can find some stuff on your canvas, stuff like that. However, this is a quick tutorial of Adobe Photoshop on the iPad.
Adobe Photoshop is one of those softwares that is very 50-50. You either love it or you hate it. When I do use Photoshop, I use it mostly on PC. It's a bit more accessible this way because you have keyboard shortcuts and different tools that you can use easier. However, my go-to software is Clip Studio Paint. Clip Studio Paint is much more accessible to new users and has a very user-friendly interface, which is very fully customizable as well. One of the worst features I believe in Photoshop is having to hit Control to use the scroll wheel to zoom. In Clip Studio Paint, simply all you need to do is scroll on the zoom wheel, and it zooms in or out on your canvas. Photoshop, however, you have to hit Control in order to zoom. In terms of substitute software, Krita and Clip Studio Paint are very accessible tools. Krita is free, and Clip Studio has very cheap rates, as well as a cheap perpetual option for its simple drawing feature. However, I am a little biased because I have been using Clip Studio Paint for about 5 years. I do highly recommend using it in comparison to Adobe software.